Vice President Joe Biden woke up to some negative headlines today for his support of the Hyde Amendment, a decades-old ban on using federal money for certain abortions. A Washington Post headline reads, "On abortion, Biden shows he's out of step with his party." A Hill headline reads, "Biden faces first crisis as frontrunner." And a Bloomberg article asks, "Has Biden made his first mistake?" Well, Biden's 2020 rivals have been quick to attack him. They all believe that the amendment is wrong. Beto O'Rourke is among them, and here's what he told our Elaine Quijano last night.
As president, I will make sure that we repeal the Hyde Amendment and roll back the gag rule, which prevents doctors from being able to make the best possible referrals to their patients, in many cases for the health and life of the woman involved. We've got to make sure that when we're talking about universal, guaranteed, high-quality health care, we're talking about a woman's right, and every woman's right, no matter their income or zip code, to make their own decisions about their own bodies.
Would you support Joe Biden knowing that he backs the Hyde Amendment?
I hope that Joe Biden rethinks his position on this issue. Perhaps he doesn't have all the facts. Perhaps he doesn't understand who the Hyde Amendment hurts most. And again, it's lower income communities, communities of color. I would ask that he rethink his position on this.
Joining us now, Gabe DeBenedetti. He's a national correspondent at New York Magazine, and he recently wrote an article. It's called "No One Knows How to Prepare for the Democratic Debates." Gabe, I want to kick it off with this Hyde Amendment.
Sure.
First off, were you surprised that Biden came forward supporting this? And what do you think the strategy was for his campaign on that?
Well, I think like a lot of people, were surprised by this because he was asked a few weeks ago for his position on this, and he said the exact opposite.
Yeah.
This was just on a rope line. An activist went up to him with a camera and sort of said, "How do you feel about the Hyde Amendment?" And he expressed the opposite position that he's now doing. I'm not sure if there was a strategy here. I think that this is legitimately how he feels, and his campaign wanted to clarify that. But the reason this is so interesting is, as we just heard, basically every single other Democrat disagrees with him. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we have Biden go out there in the coming days and try to change his, not necessarily change his mind, but change his wording a little bit, explain his position a little bit more, because what he hasn't really done is explain this in a long, articulated way.
You know, I really think abortion is going to be a huge issue on the campaign trail. I mean, you're seeing these states really restricting abortion access. I think folks weren't focusing on it in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
How do you think the other Democratic contenders are going to run with this?
Well, that's one of the reasons that this is so surprising, because the Democratic Party really has been in lockstep on this for the most part. Obviously, there are some exceptions, but Joe Biden is the front runner. Joe Biden is seen in many ways as a voice of the leading voice of the Democratic Party. So for other candidates to see him out of step on the question of abortion is very troubling for a lot of them. And I think what you'll likely see is a lot of them continue to go after him in fairly explicit terms, saying, you know, it's not right for the frontrunner, for the former vice president, to disagree on this and to restrict, essentially, want to restrict access to abortions. As you said, this is happening all around the country in fairly draconian ways if you listen to what these candidates have to say. So for Joe Biden to make it something that they're going to disagree with, a lot of them are going to try and take advantage of that.
I want to turn now, and a big moment for all of the Democratic contenders will be the June debates.
Yes.
And we know that 20 of them, right, have qualified, met the threshold to be able to, which is still quite a bit. Well, tell me what you're hearing about debate prep.
Well, there are a few things here. The first thing is, 20 of them have qualified, but there's only maximum 20 slots, and we don't know if more of them will qualify in the coming week or two.
Right.
So we don't actually know who's going to be on the debate stage. That's part one. Part two is the candidates don't know who they're going to be on the stage with, because there will be 2 nights of debates that are sort of randomly assigned. So in terms of debate prep, it's extremely difficult for these people to try and figure out what they're going to do, what they're going to say, who they're going to go after, what they're going to prepare for, because they don't know what questions they're going to get, they don't know who they're going to be able to attack, who's standing next to them, and they don't know how long they're going to get to actually do that. So look for some of them to sort of have breakout moments, but it's hard to prepare for that.
You talk about breakout moments. I guess it would be inappropriate to turn it into Survivor type thing where the audience votes them off the island, though, in a little twist. How do you get noise? How do you get your profile elevated? Because, I mean, as we've seen with debates over the years, sometimes staged moments, orchestrated moments help. Sometimes they really don't.
Right, and what a lot of these candidates are doing right now is looking at video of past debates, particularly the Republican debates in 2016 when there were also a lot of candidates, to try to find ways that candidates broke through, had moments that made sense. So for a lot of them, it's preparing one-liners that they think are going to go off well, or doing pledges on stage that they think will be able to, separate them from the rest of the pack. But the problem here is that when you have 10 people at a time trying to do this, you risk having 10 monologues on stage and no real engagement, and that doesn't make for a very good show.
Yeah, it does not make for a very good show. When you talk about, the issues that really resonate with Democratic voters, when you talk to the strategists on these various campaigns, what are they saying that they feel will really stick?
Well, one of the really interesting things is climate change. This is definitely an issue that a lot of the candidates want to talk about. It's been made very clear to a bunch of them, including Jay Inslee, the Washington governor, who wants to talk about climate change most, that there won't be a debate just about that, but a lot of them are going to try and show how they are distinctive or, out in front of their opponents on this issue. But there are other ones. You just mentioned abortion. We just talked about that. And immigration. Really, these are all ways for them to show their distance, not only from President Trump, but from the rest of the pack, too, because some of them actually do have fairly distinctive policy proposals.
You've reported that you believe Cory Booker and Elizabeth Warren are going to bet big in Iowa. Tell me a little bit more about this and about the Iowa strategy.
Yeah, I've been out there with both of them recently in the state, and both of them have a ton of folks on the ground already, full-time staffers organizing the state. Obviously, it's in a massive field, and there's a lot of time before Iowa votes. But Iowa, of course, is the first state that will go in this whole process. And what these two are betting on is that organizing this state early, having their people all over this enormous, spread out rural state is really going to pay off down the line. There are other campaigns going at this other ways, and there are other campaigns saying, well, it's been so early, people aren't engaged, maybe now we will. Kamala Harris this morning said she's going to hire 65 people in the state in the next month. So there are people going in more and more, but basically what you have now is these 2 or 3 campaigns essentially betting that if we are constantly in this state, if we spend all of our time here and spend all of our people here, we'll be able to have that breakout moment at some point.
When you talk about how you talk about Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker, but how are the others approaching Iowa at this point?
Well, if you look at someone like Joe Biden, look at early polling of Iowa, he's someone who's leading the pack by a long shot, but he barely has a team there at all. There are some senior staffers in Des Moines, and there are a lot of people who like him, but they're basically saying, we'll build up there, but it's way too early. People aren't paying attention. Someone like Pete Buttigieg has a lot of support there, but he doesn't yet have a huge infrastructure in the state because he really only became a big deal recently, so they're still trying to catch up to that. You look at someone like Beto O'Rourke, he's someone who's going to bet huge on that state, but what they're really focusing on is sending him there personally as much as possible, so he's going to be there nonstop.
It's just fascinating to see how all the campaigns are approaching this differently. Gabe DeBenedetti, grateful you could be on set with us. Thank you very much.